QEDITAS. That's an interesting project. So QEDITAS is something that a pseudonym named Bill White, probably a computational logician or some form of mathematician with a love of logic, wrote years ago. And Bill and I are good friends. We talked a lot over email, and he sent me the white paper, and we talked a lot about realizing the project. But basically what QEDITAS is it's a marketplace for deduction. So the way that mathematics in particular is constructed is in a very analog paper-based way with handwritten proofs or typed up proofs that machines don't understand. So we as human beings can use our fleshy brains to read proofs on paper, and then we kind of make a judgment, does that proof make sense? And there's varying levels of rigor based upon the field of math and the expertise of the reader. The problem is that mathematics has been around for so long, and there's so much that's been done, and there's so much specialization that if you were to put all mathematics into a tree, you kind of have like a trunk that comes up. So you have your foundations and your set theory and your logic and these things, and that's kind of like the trunk that it lives in. And then you have all these branches that come out, like number theory and analysis and topology and algebra, and then all these little sub branches that come out that are specific fields of mathematics. It's getting very difficult for a combinatorist to be able to read a topologist paper or a number theorist paper or something like that, even though they have that common core. And the problem is the papers are getting too abstract, and there's not enough domain experts around to actually properly referee them. So either have a huge latency in the review of math, or you have an uncertainty if math is moving in the right direction or not. So you see this with things like Sonichi's ABC conjecture proof. There are just not enough people floating around that can read and understand it to a point where the community can even have an opinion on whether the proof is right or wrong. Now, some of this is Sonichi's problem because he's not particularly friendly to helping the verification effort along like Andrew Wiles was with Fermat's last theorem. But the point is, we should never be in that situation. You should have a situation where you can self-validate as much as possible using a machine that the proofs you write are correct. So the point of the QEDITAS manifesto and the extension about the QEDITAS project that Bill White started was to see if you could create some sort of blockchain that could host mathematical proofs of deduction, and incentivize their creation and validation. So suddenly mathematicians could work full-time instead of for a university, for a blockchain, and write mathematical proofs all day in ways that machines can understand. And they can be self-referential. So that tree of mathematics can become transitive and machine understandable. Okay, so when you write your proof for your particular branch or your leaf coming off the branch, then you can connect that to a whole series of prior results, and then you can focus specifically on the things that you're worried about. The reason this hasn't been done is that it requires a lot of specialized skills. The tools aren't quite where they need to be, and to actually express the tree of mathematics and in a way that machines can understand is like thousands of man-years of effort. It would be the single largest endeavor in the history of mathematics and the second great reformalization of mathematics after the Hilbert agenda in the late 19th century, early 20th century. So QEDITAS is kind of an attempt to say, perhaps we can turn this into a crowdsourced thing. And if we add the right incentives, the same things like you can go from a single computer mining to thousands of miners and big data centers. You could go from a single person proving things to tens of thousands of mathematicians around the world proving things. And within a generation, we'd be able to re-express all of math on more solid foundations. Now, people have been thinking about this for a long time. Martin Loff, for example, in the 1970s, it led to the creation of something called homotopy type theory. And there are a lot of really good ideas on how to approach this. Now, I'm personally quite keen to do something in this field, and I think it'd be really cool to build QEDITAS as a project on top of Cardano and issue a token, a native asset that would represent that marketplace for deduction, and then build a lot of off-chain infrastructure, hopefully that can be run by users that would facilitate this. So it's something we're going to build a prototype team around in 2021 and start exploring if it's possible and we can get the right incentives and economic model, and then we can build lots of partners. The other thing is I'm really keen to build better formal tools than Coq or Agda or Lean to actually prove things. And it would be really cool to bring those tools into the browser. So it would be nice to take a framework as robust as Sage or another computer algebra system and pull that into a browser extension that's very easy to install and configure, and a lot of beautiful built-in tutorials, and make it very student-friendly. And then we can integrate this as part of the pedagogy of modern-day mathematics. The other thing that I'm very passionate about are open source textbooks. And what I'd love to see is if this system worked with a treasury system, the same tokens that could be used to incentivize a marketplace for deduction could also be used to incentivize people to write Creative Commons licensed mathematical textbooks. Math tends not to change too much at the trunk and branch level. It changes at the leaves. So everything you'd need, undergraduate and graduate, to get through could be rewritten in a very collaborative, crowdsourced way, modernized for the 21st century, and then distributed along with that framework. So it'd be cool to have a great CAS in the browser, an open source textbook project, and a marketplace for deduction, and rewrite the foundations of math on something like homotopy type theory instead of ZSC set theory. It's a big passion of mine, and probably not a big market winner. You never know, though. There probably could be some way to monetize it. We'll think about it. But it's more something that I think would really help the mathematical community as a whole.